especially in India, industrial capabilities were developed because it was this very funny thing. In 1986, France and India declared biotechnology to be strategic to their national interests, and biotechnology was introduced the same year by the head of state. Now in 10 years, France was a world leader, India was nowhere on the map. So we had a lot more researchers than the French, okay? We had about the same amount of money to spend on biotech. Then what happened? And this is where my research led me to the same conclusion as that of one Mr. Hirschman, who is from the World Bank, an institution I do not particularly admire, but one thing was right. He got one thing right, and he left the World Bank, by the way, after that. Basically, we always talk about resources all the time, and our lack of resources as the reason for not coming up. And this is actually passed down to all the actors in developing countries. You go to scientists, oh, we're not doing well, we don't have money. And then you go to the government, we don't have money, we don't have money. And then I found out, actually, per unit of money spent on science and technology, India was not performing well at all. That is per unit of money spent. The publications was much less, the patents were much less, and it was all a question of governance, of incentives, of actually even giving recognition for performance, in a way that was socially just. And so this led me to this study, to this notion that we need a lot of catching up to do to reach our production possibility frontier, because we need to cooperate more and we need to coordinate more. These are the two strategic problems that we always find for development of any kind. Development of a family, development of a firm, development of a country, anything. And this is a tacit knowledge that cannot be taught except through example. Okay? Because you have to show the way. And this, I guess, is a part of being a leader. Okay? Now, while all this was happening, and I was wondering about all this, the tsunami happened. Okay? So then, feeling very, that I had to do something, I started a Franco-Indian rehabilitation project. Okay? In a little village identified by some people whom I had never seen. It was all through email because I had this. And then I found out that these women, the women and men in the village, not so much the men but the women in the village, they wanted toilets. Okay? Because the vegetal coverage that surrounded the village where they used to go had been felt by the tsunami, and they were experiencing new problems that they had never experienced before. And here I met Mr. Subbaraman, who helped me, okay, and actually for these coastal regions, you see, I didn't know, there's no water point. I mean, actually there are a few, but water never comes in this village, okay, and they're basically dry. They take the surface water. And to cut a long story short, not only with Mr. Subbaraman, but with many other NGOs, I began to raise funds and give it to them, because I felt that I could not be an actor in the development process. I gave it to them, and they came, they built things, and they went away. Then this was 2005 to 2008, and then in 2008 what happened is, I started noticing that many of these structures were simply falling apart, and many of the toilets were not used. So I wanted to know how to solve this problem. What should we do? And I found that this was not the only village like this. There were thousands of abandoned toilets in India. And then when I talked to people from Africa, they said there are millions of other abandoned than toilets in Africa. So the thing is, we go on building toilets, and many of them are not used. So to see how to really change this dynamic, and another thing that I noticed, I've been in the village for some years, the only thing that was changing was the amount of garbage piling up everywhere. There was more garbage everywhere, and there was garbage blowing in the wind. So there was a hiatus for about 3 years when I was wondering what to do. And if you were me, what would you have done? Do you have a solution for toilets which fall apart and garbage that's piling up? And what would you have done? Well, I just wanted to tell you, at the end of the 3 years, I had no answer. I did not know, and all my learning and all my research on the economics of technology and innovation, I felt flat on my face. Okay, so you see, there is a, since I didn't want to give up, you see, just said, let's get in deeper. So it's as if it was a quicksand. I got in deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And then what happened is, I started it became a social enterprise. It anchored itself as a social enterprise. And I decided that, you see, every village must have its own team to keep it clean. Now this is a very nice concept, except that there is a social stigma attached to anything to do with toilets and waste. Nobody wants to pick it because it's associated with the manual scavenging caste. And so you see, the manual scavenging caste is being rehabilitated, and of course they want to do other things than clean up toilets. So you see, nobody wants to do it. And so the usual excuse that I would get in villages when I ask them why there's so much dirt, they said, the government programs, there's no manual scavengers left. So I said, why don't you do it? Our children will get teased tomorrow. We can't do such things. So the thing is, nobody wants to pick up litter from public spaces or clean up community toilets. Okay? And so this kind of a problem helped me to see that I had to train masons and train waste pickers, but nobody wants to do it. And so it's an ongoing challenge, okay, because we also have to be auto-financing. The waste pickers really do not get paid well. Okay, in rural areas they have other options, so nobody does it. In urban areas, the poorest people do it, okay, and they're not given good training, and they are usually the same lower caste people who just move from another area of work, but in an urban area, they feel good because they are part of this anonymous mass. See, so in rural areas, slowly with the Swachh Bharat mission, they are starting to pick up waste and all, but not in their own village. They take the bus and go to the next village to pick up waste so that nobody will know that they are doing such a job. Okay? So this kind of a learning and so much of insight on the dynamics of the psyche, on the supply side and the demand side, led to publications and all, and led to a division, okay, which really was to do research, because by this time, to earn money for the staff, the little staff, I had to do consultancies. And as part of that, you see, I realized there is an enormous need for good research that doesn't sit on the shelf. So all this experience made me an activist researcher. I was no longer happy to be just writing papers, which I need to write, and to be respected in the scientific community, but I wanted change to happen. And all the young people working with me have the same set of values. They also want to make change happen, and they want to be part of the change, you know. And so we are here today presenting the results of 2 projects. We got a very big European Commission grant, okay, to understand the nexus between sanitation and health, because basically you can convince people to invest in a toilet or use a toilet they already have if you can tell them, look here, if you do this, you see, your disease incidence will reduce by X%. Then you can calculate how much of health expenditure you're going to reduce. Okay? So this kind of an introduction to that. Sorry, Shambhajit, I was just wanting to, because till people came, he's just saying time, so I'll cut it. So the other thing is the Department of Science and Technology. We had another project there, and the idea was to give tools, create tools for panchayats, for the villages, because all these panchayats are really given orders all the time, you know, and you do surveys on them, but they don't have any tool to assess how well they are doing. Okay, so this morning we gave all the gory details to all the government people, okay, but they did not allow the general public to come, so none of you could be invited. So this for me, in the evening, thanks to all who are here, is to create awareness of the kind of things we are doing and to motivate more people to do the same and to be of use to anyone who wants to be a change maker themselves. Okay? So now let me just give you, we have a panel here. I'll go very fast. So, you know, we have come a long way.